I'll start at 6:46 just to give everyone a moment to enter. Which that is 6:46. Alrighty. So thank you everyone for joining the nonprofit panel of the Career Symposium. This is our second night, which was kicked off tonight with a finance and accounting panel at 6 p.m. And yesterday we had our education and healthcare panels. And we're excited to welcome Katie McDonough, Jason Curry, and our friend Brian here tonight to discuss the nonprofit sector. I'm going to start by asking each of them to give a little background on what they studied at St. Mike's, extracurriculars they were involved in, how they got into the profession they're in, and what was helpful to them to get to where they are. And I will kick it off by asking Brian to go ahead and share his career story first, and then we can go to Jason and Katie.
Thanks, Neil. First of all, let me thank the Alumni Board and your president, George Bowen, for putting this on. I think this is a great opportunity to share the thoughts of those of us who have gone on and done things since graduating from St. Michael's College, so thank you. I graduated in 1977. While I was at St. Michael's College, I studied skiing, political science, and business. While I was there, I was part of what was then a whole bunch of activities that I did. I was the business manager for the school newspaper. I was disc jockey for WWPV and was part of the Crown Sword Society. Upon graduation, I went on to get an accounting degree at the University of Hartford and a law degree out in Hamline University in St. Paul, Minnesota. And from there, I entered the business world pretty much in the insurance industry. We spent some time with the accounting firms, Arthur Young and Ernst & Winnie, and then joined the law departments of several companies, retiring from Prudential as their chief legal officer for their Prudential Annuities division about 10 years ago. While I was doing that, I think in terms of the influences to me in terms of moving in the direction with the nonprofit is there's no direct road, is what I found. There's a lot of things that go along your way that help you in your career and at the same time sort of position you to do things. And it's about leadership. And that's really what St. Michael's College is all about leadership. It's about how you take what you've learned there and how you translate it into a whole bunch of opportunities that come your way. I used to tell the people who work for me, listen, if I ask you to do something, you're going to get another tool in your tool bag that's going to help you somewhere else. And I learned that lesson myself, and I shared that with other people. So that's, I think, a very important topic. You know, the Alumni Board on the website talks about the friendships of St. Michael's College. I'll share a very important story with you. In 1978, I became a legislative intern, which was a volunteer position for the Connecticut General Assembly. My first day on the job, I met Representative Tim Moynihan. And I was up in his office, and he looked at me and he said, welcome. He said, you and I are best friends. You know why? And I said, no. He said, because you went to St. Michael's College and so did I. That makes us best friends. And I think that is the essence of St. Michael's College. Along the way, you're going to meet people who went there, and you can ask any alum to help you in any way, shape, manner, form, and they'll be there for you. I think that's the essence of St. Michael's. From there, in 1999, I got a phone call from then Archbishop Daniel Cronin, who was the Archbishop of Hartford. Now, that's a little unsettling. And I'd never talked to the man before. His administrative assistant said to me, would you please stand by for Archbishop Cronin? I said, of course I will. You know, what does he want to talk to me about? What did I do wrong? So he asked me to join a board called the Foundation for the Advancement of Catholic Schools that raises money to support scholarships for students attending the Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of Hartford. At the time, the endowment was about $1 million, and most of that was from one individual. His name was David Chase. David was Jewish from Poland, and his best friend was St. John Paul. And because of that relationship, he was committed to Catholic education. And his finance officer was a fellow who knew my dad, and so because this man was basically managing his boss's money in this foundation, he pulled me in. I became the treasurer. We grew the foundation a bit, And then I took over. I was asked by Archbishop Mansell to become the president. And of course, how do you say no again? And since that time, we've grown the foundation to about $14 million, and we generate scholarships totaling about $1 million a year. And this is me doing my charity work. This is volunteer work. This isn't a career. But what I found, and this is where it's sort of the straight path isn't there, you get to balance the things you've learned by the volunteer activities or your business activities to assist in helping move things forward. Along the way, I was very honored to serve as the president of the Alumni Association on the board of trustees, and I met people there too. So one of the values of doing things on a volunteer basis is that you get to meet people who you can work with in other aspects of life and who can help you, and you help them accomplish great things. So whether you're going to do this as a direct career choice, or whether you're going to supplement your career choice and gain advantages, those tools in the toolbox, this is, I think, a perfect opportunity to be involved in the nonprofit sector.
Thank you, Jason.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Curry. I'm class of 1995. So thankful and honored to be here with everyone else here on the panel, as well as getting an opportunity to engage with so many of the St. Michael's family members who are on joining us as well. I graduated in 1995. I was a journalism major. So I'm not quite sure exactly how it works at the college now, but when I first got to St. Michael's, you actually had to study journalism your first 2 years, and then your last 2 years you can branch off into broadcast or PR. I think there was one other extension of that as well, but my last 2 years I studied broadcast journalism. In terms of extracurricular activities, I was a 4-year member of the men's varsity team. In addition to what I was talking about as far as being a broadcast journalism major, I also wrote for the Defender while I was a student. And like Brian, I was also a DJ at WWPV, which is probably one of my most fun things to do during my time at St. Michael's. After I graduated from St. Mike's, I knew that I wanted to get into the line of work in media, and I wound up after my first year out of school, wound up getting a job and working in television and radio, and I spent about 10 years working as a television video editor, in addition to a college basketball color commentator and sideline reporter. So I worked for News 12 Long Island and New York One News here in New York City, NBA Entertainment, CNN, WNBC, and WABC. While at the same time working, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I was working for the University of Vermont doing college basketball color commentary and sideline reporting for their men's and women's basketball team for several years. A lot of their road games, basically covering all of their games from as far north as Massachusetts to as far south as Maryland. And then in 1999, I started a company which is called Big Apple Basketball. I founded it. And when we first started, it was just a semi-pro touring team that I was a part of. We travel the country and play against other colleges in which they'd actually pay us to come play against them, and I'd pay the players. And the reason I came up with the name Big Apple Basketball is because we were going to be traveling the country, or at least, the Northeast at that point. And I just wanted representation wherever we went, people knew we were from. And that's where the name Big Apple Basketball came from. And then from 99 until 2003, all Big Apple Basketball was something that I did as a hobby, a couple of months a year in terms of the touring team. But in 2003, I started our first youth program, which was called our scholarship games. And ultimately what began to happen over time is, even though I was still working in the media industry, I began to just yearn to want to do more with Big Apple basketball, to the point where in 2005, with no business plan, no experience in terms of nonprofits, how to run a company or anything, I literally walked into Channel 4, NBC and ABC at the time, and quit my jobs, just cold turkey. It's just really just following my passion. And from 2005 to now, I've been doing this full time. And, for me, a lot of times I say I've really cultivated a business where it's probably not too much different than, a senior being in college, and they tell you that you have to engage in something your second semester, and you really just have to learn as you go along. And that's really all I've done with Big Apple basketball. When I first started, I was paying money out of my pocket for everything. And then after a couple of years, then I, started to kind of remember some conversations that people would tell me about sponsorships. And I was like, man, what was that sponsorship thing again? Let me try to do some research in that. And then, began to research grants. But I mean, literally, I just came into this with a lot of relationships. And that's really what I've been able to do. This is my 21st year running Big Apple basketball, is really just turning something that was a passion and a labor of love into a full-time occupation. And I'd say that one of the biggest things in terms of my benefits to being affiliated with St. Michael's is that through every step of the way, my connections and resources to people at St. Michael's has really helped me from 1999 to 2000, whether it be former teammates, former professors. I'm still in touch with, people in the admission office, Chris Kinney, who's the athletic director, Chris Clary, who used to work in the Student Resource Center, and that's really just been invaluable for me in terms of helping me to grow my business. Is the St. Michael's connections and family have been, a huge part of my success.
Thank you, Katie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie McDonough. I graduated in the class of 2019. So I've only been out of St. Mike's for about a year and a half now. My experiences are not quite as robust as Brian and Jason have to offer. But while I was at St. Mike's, I studied sociology and religious studies. I was also involved in WWPV as a DJ for a little while. So I guess there's maybe a little bit of a link there between WWPV and nonprofit work. I also was involved with the Student Government Association as Secretary of Communications, as well as Secretary of Student Life for a year. And let's see what else. During my senior year, I also participated in a move service trip to LaPlante, South Dakota. And I would say that that was definitely part of what motivated my desire to continue on working with youth and wanting to pursue a career in youth development and looking into the nonprofit sector. So after I graduated, I spent a year of time doing service with City Year Boston, which is an education nonprofit that also exists in different cities all around the country. I served in Boston, and I was at a high school in Charlestown, Massachusetts, and I was placed in a 9th grade English classroom where I served as a tutor and mentor for students. I ran an after-school program for kids, and that also really kind of helped to fuel my passion for what I'm doing now. I'm currently working on my master's in clinical social work at Boston University and serving an internship with a middle school as a counselor. And I would say that St. Mike's has really helped me to pursue this path by introducing service as a line of work for me. Also have stayed really closely connected with professors that have helped to write recommendations and connect me with other folks from St. Mike's who have also participated in similar service programs. So that's where I'm at now. I did that for a year, serving with City Year. And then I transitioned into another nonprofit job, which I'm at now, as a direct support provider it's called Bridgewell, and we serve folks with developmental disabilities. So that's what I do now. I'm still involved in nonprofit work.
Thank you. So as you can already see, we have such a diverse group of people here coming from the business sector and bringing that experience into nonprofits, media, and growing something from a passion project into a full impact, almost entrepreneurial nonprofit program and direct impact on the front lines. So it's great to have you all here. And I guess what I'll ask you now, from your experience, what are maybe some tips you could say to people coming into this field? I know you've already highlighted relationships and having experience with service. So I would ask that, and at the same time, if attendees have questions, I invite you to add them to the chat. Our friend Kevin here will be reviewing them and we'll get to asking them right after this question. So in the meantime, I invite our panelists to discuss like what helped them get into their field and what tips they have for students.
Can you just repeat that? Repeat that for me? You just froze for a second.
Sorry about that. My apologies. Can everyone hear me?
No, it might be my end.
Okay. So the question was, what tips would you have for students entering the nonprofit field? And so I guess we can go in the same order, or we can switch it up to whoever has an answer that they'd like to share.
I can jump in. I think one of the things, oh, sorry. One of the things that definitely helped me make the decision to do a year of service after graduating was that I wasn't totally sure if I was ready to go on to graduate school yet. So like talking with professors and getting advice on like what a kind of like productive gap year would be was really helpful for me. And then they were able to connect me with other St. Mike's graduates who had done the same program. And I know that we did already talk about relationships a little bit, but I just found that really helpful and kind of comforting because I didn't know too much about what the program actually looked like. So it was super helpful to be connected with another alum who had already participated. So I'd say like reach out to other people who have done similar programs to you or that you're interested in pursuing.
Brian, do you want to go?
I think, sure. I think a lot of it comes down to finding what is important to you. And so in my case, I didn't go to work for a paycheck with a nonprofit. I went to work somewhere else and chose to use what I earned to contribute towards assisting others in need who deserved an opportunity to attend a great school, get a good education, and to be very successful in life. And that's the track record that exists within the school structure in the Archdiocese of Hartford. And, you know, my mother was a big proponent of Catholic school education, and I didn't want any part of it. So for me to be doing what I do with the vengeance that I have and the vigilance that I have really stems from the perspective she shared with me and gave me in all of this. And obviously I chose to go to St. Michael's College. And I think it all sort of fit together. I think really what this is about is what is it that you want to do? What do you feel? And reaching out to those who are doing it to help you get there. And like I said earlier, maybe you're not going to have it as your career from an economic point of view where you're making money from it, but you might have it as a career where you're giving back to the community, but you're meeting people on these boards. You're meeting people in life that can help you. Maybe not directly, but indirectly. You know, I want to highlight even the time I spent on the alumni board, the folks that I met there contributed to my success with what I did, because you heard people talk and approach different issues in a certain way, and it gave you an ability to analyze and think through problems that confronted you. Same thing on the Board of Trustees. It opened up another group of people with whom I interacted. And I learned how to take that leadership and apply it. I learned how to do it in my career, and I learned how to do it to help others. And so I'm different from Jason and Katie in that I was doing this in a different capacity, but sort of the same passion. There was something you believed in, something you wanted to do. And for me, it was an opportunity to help me in my other career, but I was helping others in what they were trying to do too.
Yeah, and I'd say the one thing that I would add quickly as well is volunteering or interning. If you're a current student, trying to get an internship with a non-for-profit organization within the space in which you feel like you have talents or interests, I think will reveal a lot to you. Or if you're out of school, absolutely volunteering, because I think that, the more that you're involved, I think that the more clarity you'll get with that potential decision as far as, if you feel like the non-for-profit sector is for you, or even what particular space that you want to work in.
Thank you all for those answers. So one question that we got from attendees upon registration was a question about how fields like business play into the nonprofit sphere. And as Brian and Jason have professional experience prior to this, Katie, you are great. I know you're in school still, so I don't want to pull you out of this question if you have something to add to it, but I want to direct this question to Brian and Jason. Can you speak to your career experiences that lent themselves to the nonprofit sector and helped you in it, whether it be from your experience in business, Brian, and your experience in media, Jason, how your experiences beforehand helped lay the groundwork and help you through the nonprofit sector?
Who's going first, Brian?
Do you want to go first?
Okay, all right, I'll take it.
Go ahead, buddy.
I would definitely say one of the things that I realized early on with me putting together community events in the space of sports and athletics and events was my media background was huge in terms of being able to write press releases and then also to be able to have the connections to get media coverage at a lot of events that I was putting on here in New York City. So being a grassroots organization, a lot of times, one of the things that we all need a lot in addition to money is exposure. So by me having those media relationships, I was able to get, the New York Daily News and the New York Post and literally WNBC coming to cover our events, WABC, New York One News, so it was almost like we're getting exposure as if we're at Madison Square Garden, but in reality, we were just a small grassroots organization. But again, all of that was a direct ties to the relationships that I cultivated while I was working in that media industry. So
I think it all comes back to the three of us having the experience as DJs on WWPV. So, you might put it in the perspective of communication, right? We really all have a degree in communication. And that really, I think, is the key. Having the confidence to go out and approach people, to talk to people, to get them to buy into what you're doing, to get them to contribute and have the confidence in you so that you exude the integrity, the confidence in the organization you're representing so that they're willing to take. This is about getting donations in many ways and putting it to good uses. So unless they have the confidence in you as a person through your communication, through how you share yourself, the relationships you have, you're not going to be successful. So I think it comes down to having the integrity, the ability to communicate, the ability to state your case, and the ability to be direct and honest with folks so that they understand what it is you're doing. I describe our organization pretty much like a mutual fund. We take investment dollars in, we put them to work in the management of the money, and then we create distributions when we hand out scholarships to children. It's the same principle that a mutual fund has. And when people hear that, they understand it and they get it. And as long as we have communicated that to them and they understand it and they know our purpose and they know the money's protected, they like our organization. So Jason, I'm with you. It comes down to relationships and how you communicate with people and make them feel comfortable with who you are.
Thank you both. Those were such great answers. They really do come into play in the nonprofit sphere. Degree in communication is definitely a great quote that I will continue to use as we go through this conversation. And relationships also, really being able to pull people in and have them buy into your idea is such an amazing thing, especially in the nonprofit sphere. You're helping them buy into impact in the community. So thank you for those answers. And I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, who has a question that he'll ask the panelists.
Yep. So we've gotten a couple questions here, before the meeting started, and also now on graduate school, and what that means, or how does that help in nonprofits, whether it's necessary, whether it helps, and if so, kind of like where should someone look at master's degrees or PhD degrees, and if not, like why not, right?
Well, again, I think it comes down to tools in your toolkit, right? So in my case, at the time I wasn't, I said to you earlier, it's not a direct line. You got a lot of twists and turns. So I finished at St. Michael's with a political science degree. What do you do with that? Well, you learned how to analyze to think. You learned how to approach. You learned how to communicate, writing and orally. So I went to get a master's in accounting. Well, having the financial background helped me understand the finances of the balance sheet, the income statement, the revenue, and how all these things interrelated. Went to law school. Well, nonprofits are really driven by two things. One, a legal entity that is governed essentially by the Attorney General's office of each state and our friends at the Internal Revenue Service. So you begin to get an understanding of what's involved in order to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And that's really important. And to that, I think it gives you the ability to lead. Remember I said St. Michael's teaches us leadership. I want to use a quote, and I'm not sure everybody's heard this in the past, but my classmate, Joe Dunford, he gave the 2017 commencement address, and he gave a short description of what leadership is. He said, leadership is doing the right thing when it's easier not to. And when you think about what that man did in his career, and the depth and breadth and scope of those words, if you apply them in everyday life, leadership is doing the right thing when it's easier not to. You can take whatever tools you have and make sure you do them in the right way, and you're going to be successful.
Thank you so much for that. So we're coming up on time now, and I guess as we depart, I will just want to recap on everything we've heard tonight. I think one thing that we've really grounded ourselves in is the Edmundite values of social justice. And I think that's something that has propelled a lot of us through our careers working in nonprofits myself. I know that that has guided me as well, but I just want to pull back to a couple things that we've heard tonight. Relationships being so important in the nonprofit sector, taking professional experiences from elsewhere and helping them to drive nonprofits. Brian, thank you so much for all your business advice. It's been very helpful to get a better understanding of what that area of the nonprofit sector looks like. Jason, relationships are really so crucial. And Katie's service, really being on the ground and having that impact and understanding from the impact base back to the business side, how everything comes together is really what the nonprofit field is all about. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing this. And if you have any questions, our panelists are available on SMC Connect. It is our networking platform. If you're not on it yet, I invite you to join. And please also feel free to go through the Alumni Engagement Office and Career Education Office should you like to contact panelists. And thank you again for participating.
You're welcome. Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.